All right, welcome back, everybody. We are here for episode 3 with Gaby and Isabella for our little mini series here that we're doing, breaking down all the different things that we talk about on my podcast. My name is also Broxton Davis, performance media analyst at one of the top agencies in the world, as well as the host of the BroxtenDigital show, my podcast that I just mentioned. I'm joined by Gaby Matos and Isabella Tirado, two recent Michigan State grads who are out killing it in the advertising scene right now. Gaby founded her own agency, Slate Social, and Isabella works with Gaby quite a bit, as well as does some other things on the side. So a lot of stuff going on, and just three people who, and don't mean to toot my own horn here, but just three people who I think have really gone above and beyond, and really trying to make sense of this crazy industry that we're in. I know it can be kind of difficult to figure out right now, and that's kind of why we're making this mini series, is to share the stuff that we've figured out over time, and the stuff that I'm getting told on my show by CMOs and directors and VPs, and just breaking it down on how we're actually using it and how we're leveraging it to move ourselves forward in our day to day. One thing I guess I realized I didn't mention the first two episodes was Gaby and Isabella are recording from the car for these. The reason for that being is that, as a founder, you don't have a lot of time to just sit down and record for hours on end. You have to go and service your clients and get shit done on the weekend. So that's exactly what it seems like they're doing right now. But also making some time to get some awesome content and put some content out there. So just goes to show how important the content piece of everything is, but also goes to show, like, if you want to go into the founder space and start taking on clients, that's kind of how your life's going to look like. But I think talking with Gabby and Isabella, they wouldn't have it any different. So super awesome, and just kind of wanted to let everybody know, that's why this is kind of the car series, is because they're busy, and we had to get the content out there. So anyways, now we're here for episode 3. I'm super excited for episode 3. We're going to get to talk about something I'm super passionate about, and something I'm sure Gabby and Isabella are also super passionate about and have had to figure out, because we're going to be talking about ROI and ROAS today. And working in paid media, those are kind of like my bread and butter. I need to be able to show how my media dollars that you spent made you money at the end of the day. Where in the world of organic social media, where Gabby and Isabella play a lot, it's a lot different. You're not using tools that are designed to attribute dollars spent to dollars made in revenue on the other end. It's kind of, for somebody who's never done it, just like the Wild West. You could be throwing stuff out there and you really have no idea. You can see like impressions, clicks, that kind of thing. But as far as, did anybody turn into a paying client? Did anybody click the link and purchase something from the landing page? That's a lot different to find out. So we're just going to be diving into all that, and kind of how you can take something that's super important in marketing and advertising as a student or young pro, being able to attribute spend to revenue, and finding ways that you can leverage that and be somebody who knows what they're talking about when that comes up, because those conversations are what gets you hired and what lands you clients, is when you can say, hey, I'm going to be able to make you X amount based off of your investment here. So to kind of get into things, I mentioned ROAS earlier with performance media. That is like, our gospel is, what was the return on ad spend? What did we get out of this campaign after we spent X amount of dollars? How much money did the business make that was doing the advertising? And really, at the end of the day, it's as simple as that. Obviously, my job's not that easy. There's a ton of different data points and a ton of different KPIs, and things fluctuate between clients, campaigns, what you're selling. A lot of different things go into it, but at the end of the day, like, your client or the business you're working for is looking for how much money or revenue did we make based off of the investment here, whether it's Meta ads, Google ads, a big old billboard. Like, they're looking for how much money do we make off of this, because they had to spend X amount of dollars to get it. It can get tricky when you have different channels and things like that, but I really think, being somebody who just understands how to translate this to clients is a really big thing too, because as a specialist in either performance media or social media, your client or business you're working with is not a specialist. They don't understand everything like you understand it. So just one, being able to understand the data and use it, like I was saying, and then also being able to communicate it is a huge thing, which I was just kind of having a side conversation with Gabby and Isabella about. But that kind of breaks down, how I leverage data, how I, kind of use ROAS in practice, and how I would present it to clients. And just like, that's kind of the forefront of what I would present to a client is, you dumped this money into your paid media campaign. Here's what you made. I know on the social media front, that's probably not the metric you're leading with. So I'm just curious to kind of see, what is your guys' kind of process for, one, making it make sense to a business owner of, hey, we're going to have to invest some money here to get these socials going. But then two, how are you proving to them, like, here's the value on the other end of it?
Yeah. Well, to open it up, it's funny because we just onboarded a new client, a new Pilates studio coming in Novi, and she found us actually through Instagram, which was very exciting. But one of the things she said to us when we were having a branding shoot was that she really did not want to skimp out or go light on her marketing dollar, and she saw the value forefront, which was very exciting in our position to have a business owner come and understand the value of having good marketing and building that strong foundation. So that was super exciting to hear from that perspective at that time. But she really did find the value in building that strong foundation of a marketing dollar spent towards her business.
And honestly, I think a lot of people, it's marketing is looked at as something that, can be budgeted, or, it's not as important because, it's harder to track. So like, who's to say majority of your clientele are coming from your social media? That's why it's so important that when you see a client or a customer, and you have the opportunity to ask them, in a short survey or like a Google review, hey, how'd you find us? So that you can use that data to track. That's where that organic media kind of takes, an extra step, specifically to show like, the client, hey, this is working, it's, what you're paying for is working for your business. Now, do we see that right away? No. It takes, time to build up to that. But in terms of like other advertising, we don't stray away from, paid ads or anything like that. I think if you use it strategically and you know what you're trying to use it for, you can go to your client and say, hey, if we spend X amount of money on this campaign for X amount of time, this is what we're hoping to see out of it. This is where each dollar will be allocated. This is how many posts are going out. And we like to do that oftentimes before like an event is released, before like a launch, anything like that. It kind of helps us control our views. Not control our views, meaning like limit them, but like it pushes our content out to bigger audiences so that we know, we're hitting more people. We're not just relying on like the audience that we've been building. So I would say like that's, a difference between the two, and how we kind of differentiate which one to use. But I think there is definitely some really, really good benefits to using and, doing organic media, just for that authenticity factor. I know we talk about that a lot here. Authenticity, the human touch, like it does really matter, especially in like a world that moves as fast as we do today. There's so much information constantly going in and out. So as long as you can, remain consistent and authentic and relatable, but cohesive to your brand, I think that's, the key to success, whether that's through paid media or organic.
No, I love that. I love how you guys always are kind of able to tie that back into your like main pillar of everything needs to have that authenticity piece added to it, and like it's just what you need to be focusing on no matter kind of how you're chalking things up. So super cool how you guys can get back to that. And something that really stuck out that you said was just that with organic, you do have that waiting period, where with paid ads, it's more like, I flip the ads on and your first client could pop in within an hour of it being turned on or something, because that's what the platform's trying to do for you. So I guess my main question is, so you guys talked about just having this new client that was super on board and sees the value. That's not always the case. Everybody knows that just from you. It's obvious that not every business owner is going to be all about it, and I'm sure there's some that even think it's something they shouldn't be doing. There's everybody has their own opinion out there. So kind of how do you then, already having that disadvantage of, hey, this is going to take a while before you start seeing any money coming in, how do you then justify to a small or medium-sized business owner, like, you need to make this investment, because this is kind of the long-term play here, which is obviously, I'm sure, a little bit harder to explain.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like we really start out a lot of the time with taking that client. Once we have that first opening of conversation and opportunity, even long before we're potentially even in business together, but taking that time to explain to them thoroughly from our perspective what is the value, because maybe with people who have that opinion, maybe they don't truly understand in depth thoroughly what is really going on, what the exchange really is, and what could potentially come from it. So we really like to value and start with education and just telling them, this is from our position, from our perspective, our position, from our education, this is what we really see the value in. And then also I feel like we like to, and we're always working on this, but really keeping organization like at the forefront. And if we have well-performing videos or well-performing content on some of our accounts, like client accounts, like keeping all of those numbers tracked, dated, all of that, so that we have, I guess, tangible and numeric information to really show these people. Like, here's one video that got 24,000 views. That's 24,000 views you did not have before. Mm-hmm. So 24,000 opportunities of visibility where a person near or far is now exposed to your brand and your name.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you guys kind of have to do your due diligence and have the proof to be able to show, like, you might not have the numbers to show it, but, this is what we actually have to show that what we're doing works and can drive revenue. So that's super cool and made a ton of sense. Like, that just demystified a ton for me, not being a social media person. So I can only imagine for like a student who wants to get into it, this would probably be an amazing place to start, is just with this video and getting, some insights from, you two who are dealing with this stuff day in and day out, and it obviously clicks for y'all. So that was super cool, and I really just loved that breakdown. I thought it was very insightful. Is there anything else you guys want to cover there as far as like attributing, data tracking, anything like that you think is super important for just the next generation of students and young professionals to kind of be focusing on, that you think would be important for them?
I think it could be important to note, like, it's like the game that we're in, like we chose to be in, and there has to be a reason that we like enjoy it and love it. And I think like nurturing the mindset that you have and like consuming all you can in that game and always trying to be the best version you can be of yourself in the game is good. That way that when you're in front of a client who maybe has a doubt, or people who aren't clients but just have doubts, you're able to talk about it in a way that comes off confident and like passionate almost. And it's just like, this is important, and I want to help you see why it is important, and just standing strong on that. Like, we also work with one of our colleagues, Nathan Vo, and he's just very like confident in the way he talks. Like, he takes it so seriously, and when you're around him, you're just like, oh, like he means business. And I feel like being around someone like that, I'm just always like, wow, like, yes, like this is super important and serious in a way.
And like also, there's that business element to it. So we are running a business. Like, we can't let people, walk all over us or try to tell us like how to run, something we do every day. So, just having boundaries with people, I think, is another huge talking point that we could definitely get into. But, make sure that you're confident, you don't beat around the bush unless necessary. You're professional, but get your point across in a nice manner. And you should be good.
Yeah, and once your passion translates over, I think that that's a good subconscious selling point. If you're passionate about something, people will see, wow, there is something there about it.
Awesome. Yeah, that I think is some awesome advice to kind of wrap up the episode on. So just to kind of recap, we broke down, exactly how I'm measuring ROAS and ROI in paid media, and kind of how that's a little bit easier than what Gaby and Isabella are doing with social media, but they also have some awesome strategies that they do to kind of do the same thing and provide value to their clients. So if you're a student or young professional looking to kind of learn more or even break into either of those industries, whether it be social media or performance media, this is a great place to start and just kind of get some insights from people who are working in it every day, to kind of go and maybe have the head start on somebody who just got a job and doesn't have that leg up. So that's only going to make you stand out. With that too, Gaby and Isabella also just shared some really killer advice for just like, general day-to-day, how to manage clients, how to manage yourself right there at the end. So definitely use that and run with it. I definitely wish I was getting told that advice in college, because I definitely lacked in those areas. So Super awesome advice, ladies. Thank you again for another great breakdown episode, and we'll see you guys on episode 4.